Okay, this is not a fanboy discussion or me getting over my skis. It's going to sound pretty dramatic, and it's going to sound like an overreaction. I don't think it is. I really don't. The Texas BYU game will likely define the quarterback job next year for Texas, and probably the quarterback position for at least one other school. I know that sounds, I know how it sounds. I feel how it sounds. But I don't think I'm wrong. Yeah, one game. One nondescript, should be a blowout game, defines the quarterback job for Texas next year, and probably defines the quarterback position. When I say at least one school, it could be two. It's a free agent tryout for Malik Murphy. And it's a ton of pressure on the kid because he's playing for his football future. And he doesn't know if it's a one-game tryout or not. So you have to go into it with the idea. I'm not sure. I have no idea what kind of mindset he has, but this is how it's going to play out. Here's a guy taking the field, getting his first start in what amounts to a one-game free agent tryout. Now, he might think he might have more. We don't know because the starter, we have no idea how long the starter will be out. So you have to go into it just like a pro would. Just like a pro backup quarterback has to look at your start is your free agent showcase. It's that serious. It defines you that quickly. I think the same thing applies in this case. The same thing applies to him. It's a free agent tryout. It's a free agent tryout that could be somewhere else, or it's a free agent tryout that could be at Texas. And it might just be one game. It might be more. He has one game to do it. Now, think about that. He may be playing for his Texas future, or he may be playing, I say likely playing, for a starting gig elsewhere. Or, and there's multiple parts to this, or if it doesn't go well, if it goes badly, he could blow his chance at Texas, and he could blow his chance at anywhere else. That's what free agent tryouts, when you're the backup quarterback, that's what goes into your start. It may be one, it may be more, but you have to look at it as this start defines everything. In this case, it defines, follow me here, it doesn't just define this kid's opportunities, it defines two other guys too. Now, it's not an overreaction. The quarterback job at Texas is owned by Quinn Ewers in the short term, and almost no matter what happens on Saturday, the job is still his. There is, and I know how fans react, but there is it's sort of an unwritten rule almost that when you've held the job, you typically don't lose your job based on an injury. But the qualification to that is, that just depends on how long you're out. If Malik Murphy would have lighted up on Saturday against a mediocre to bad BYU team at home, right? And people are going to freak out because you're going to see the talents. You will notice it immediately. It is eye-opening. But if he were to light him up, people would say, well, that's it. The job's his. No. Generally speaking, following the old unwritten rule, if your starter is ready to get the ball back in a game, the starter gets the ball back in a game. Now, the leash is much shorter on the starter, but you don't freak out and replace your starter usually on one game. Okay? But there's levels to that too, which I think is really interesting about this. So I think Quinn Ewers, unless he's out multiple weeks, and we don't know, it's a throwing shoulder. But unless he's out multiple weeks, and he might be, he'll get his job back no matter how Malik Murphy plays on Saturday, I think. That's the way it usually works. Now, Malik Murphy, for those that don't know, and most non-nerdy football fans don't know, he is a ridiculously talented player. If he were to play really well on Saturday, manage the game really well, and then turn around and get another chance to do it again, play really well for 2 games. And the second game would mean beating a good Kansas State team in a game, because that game has stakes. It has real meaning, real implications. But if he were to beat a good Kansas State team in a game that probably gets Texas to the Big 12 championship game, and it may even get them to the Final Four. If Malik Murphy were to go 2-0 and doing it in a really, really good way, and he goes the distance in both starts, then things get complicated for Quinn Ewers getting his job back. That's how I think that could play out too. Then I think Steve Sarkisian, in that case, a kid with a hot hand, that's another rule to kind of follow, and it's, it's subjective, of course, but then Steve Sarkisian has to decide at 2-0, having gone the distance, do you go with a hot hand? And that could be Malik Murphy. If he were to go 2-0 and did have a hot hand, and you go 2-0, you probably get to keep that guy. You keep the ball. That's the way to look at it. You're going to get the ball back. So I think it would take 2 wins and 2 really good performances to keep the ball, to keep going. That's one setup. Okay, and that's pretty interesting by itself. With a sketchy performance, and if he were to get pulled for football royalties Arch Manning, he's gone. That's how dramatic a one-game free agent tryout can be. Because there's just too much, it's like for Texas right now, their quarterback position is somewhat similar. I'm not saying talent-wise, but I'm saying it's somewhat similar to the competition you'd get in a pro locker room. Okay? And that is, your backup gets the big break. Your backup gets that one-game free agent tryout. If the backup flames out in the one-game tryout, it's such a short leash. There's not much patience. There's not much thought that goes into backups. You quickly move down. Now, behind him, of course, is football royalty, which has all the fan pressure that can come with that. So if Malik Murphy were sketchy, if Malik Murphy were to get pulled, to get yanked, he drops to third in a hurry and loses all confidence. I have no idea what kind of confidence he has going in. But if he were to get yanked in the big free agency tryouts, then he loses it, just like any player will. Any quarterback will. If Arch Manning has to come out of the bullpen, it's very much then Quinn Ewers' job unless Arch Manning goes on a 2-game run. Either way, Quinn Ewers has a huge advantage. Malik Murphy, if he's mediocre or worse, would probably be gone because he would not want to sit around as third, but he would automatically drop to third. Yes, one game will do it. Yes. Then Quinn Ewers has to play against football royalty if Arch Manning were to come in out of the bullpen and go on a 2-game run. Got it? I think that's all possible. If Malik Murphy plays well and he were to get every indication, or even he's told, hey, the job might be yours. And that's another thing. Got to step away for a second. College coaches now, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks, every one of whom thinks they should play and play right now. And if they don't play and play right now, they leave. And they'll find another job elsewhere. That's the way the game is nowadays. So it's a coach's job to be brutally honest. You don't want guys bouncing from place to place telling other good quarterbacks, yeah, he screwed me over, or he didn't tell me the truth. You got to be brutally honest with the guys. You have to be brutally honest and say, yeah, I think you can make it in the pros, or not. Yeah, you got a chance to win the job, or the job is yours, or even, I don't think you're going to have a chance to win the job. You've got to do that. So if Malik Murphy were to play well and get the indication, his own confidence, his teammates, the scoreboard itself, and his head coach, that the job might be his, and he may win the job next year, then Quinn Ewers has to decide. Now, this would only set itself up in a really hot 2-game run. One game's not going to do this. But a hot 2-game run by a kid with a ton of talent that everyone will see. It won't, I'm sure the guys in practice see it. It's just a different dude. Now, where that translates into from the driving range to the field, you don't know, and you never know until you turn the lights on. But the talent is there. I mean, everybody sees it. So then, if he were to go on a 2-game run and get the indication that he might be the starter, that job might be his, that Quinn Ewers would get the word, yeah, you got some competition. I can't lie to you, kid. You're gonna have to fight the guy off. Then he would be stuck in a place where he has to decide whether to go into the NFL draft. And that's not as easy as people think. Don't be so myopic. That's not an easy choice because I think at best, and everybody's always looking for a quarterback, but this year there are a ton of quarterbacks. He's not even 5th or 6th off the draft board right now. No way. Further down than that, probably. At best, he would be a second rounder right now. So now that may be a better choice, getting paid a little bit more than you might be making at Texas, than losing your job at Texas, which would sink your draft chances altogether. So that sets up a weird option for him if there really is a quarterback battle with a guy that comes out of the bullpen. Think about it. In that scenario, it doesn't seem logical for Arch Manning to stay at Texas and wait. It just doesn't seem logical. That'd be 2 years of waiting, and that's a lifetime to college quarterbacks. It would be shocking if he wanted to stay third or even back up again. If Quinn Ewers were to come back and battle Malik Murphy for the starting job, there's no way Arch Manning would want to be the third guy for another year. I just couldn't see it. So that sets up pretty interesting. In other words, if you were to play that well and go on a 2-game run, what does that mean for next year at Texas? What does that mean for Quinn Ewers' decisions? Which aren't easy. It's not as easy as saying, I want to go play in the NFL. I'm going to be a first rounder. No, you're not. He's not. He's not. The numbers are against him. There's too many good guys coming out and too few teams looking for a first-round quarterback. He gets lost in the shuffle. So I know what you're thinking. Is all of this riding on one start from a kid most non-nerdy football fans have never heard of? Yeah, actually, I think so. It sets up like a free agent opportunity for a good backup quarterback in the NFL. Am I overhyping this kid? I may be. His talent is off the charts. I have no idea how it translates. I'm just saying the setup here is multiple players having to make multiple decisions based on one start, good or bad. A bad run wipes him out. He's third. He's probably gone. So does his talent translate? We'll find out. It's fascinating, though. I mean, this is the real takeaway. It's fascinating how one free agent tryout that might turn into 2 games, it might turn into 3, but this free agent tryout, it's amazing how that one start against a double-digit underdog, that's what it is. There's nothing really interesting about this game, unless you're just a nerdy fan, except this storyline of the quarterback story. But it's amazing how one start against a double-digit underdog can affect so many players and potentially so many programs.